there's something horrendously wrong and dark with the porn industry. Guys would be shocked to realize how much fat women will make on OnlyFans platforms.
Everybody's having unprotected sex in the porn industry. Do you guys do tests beforehand?
The woman I was shooting with, her test results hadn't come back yet. No, I get my pants off, and she gets a text message.
You mentioned also that there's no political correctness in the porn industry.
I would say there's a shitload of political correctness. Massive cancel culture.
Fuck, we should even cut that out. I'm not even going to give that information. This is a great program.
Let's do this business together.
The following is a conversation with Stirling Cooper, who's an ex-adult film star, and now he teaches men how to eat better in bed, how to perform better, and how to get a thriving dating life. He's a very provocative personality, but also has some very, very interesting things to share. So without further ado, have fun. All right, Stirling, your content is pretty damn crazy, and you've been blowing up quite a lot. No pun intended. So you've become known as an adult film star actor, and you've hitchhiked super beautifully off of that to now teach men how to become better in bed, and how to, but not only that, but also how to get girls and become just overall a better man. The one thing that I wanted to ask you right away actually is what made you get into the adult film industry in the first place? How does one get into that?
I think the how is a bit more interesting than the why. The why, there wasn't really a lot of in-depth thought behind the why. It was more of I like to do things that people think are impossible. Like when someone tells me "Dad, you can't do that, no fucking way," I'm kind of like, really? It kind of lights a fire under my ass in a weird way. And the kind of roundabout way was I was in the swinging scene back in Australia as a bull. If people know what that is,
no,
I'm the dude that goes to parties and went to parties rather, and would bang a dude's wife in front of him.
Okay, what a job.
Well, yeah, a bit odd, but that was my mid-20s, and then there was women in that circle who had done a bit of porn. And they were they would over the course of a year, they were in my ear, you should try it. You'd probably be good at it. And eventually I was like, this is a ridiculous enough idea that I want to give it a crack. And I got kind of autistic about it in the sense that I tried to reverse engineer how to get into the industry. And it paid off. It works. My reverse engineering was obviously correct because kind of piggyback my way from Australia to the UK to Europe and then eventually America.
So as a bull, so these men who wanted you to have sex with their wives, what did the average wife look like? Was there were they attractive? Was it a good deal, so to speak, or
was it a fair trade? I'd typically early 30s to late 30s is the age range. And the women tended to have a super high sex drive and actually be relatively fit. They would look after themselves to try to present themselves, try to be sexy. I actually find that not just with women who were in the swinging scene. I tend to find that in big cities, places I've lived in LA and Miami and London and Melbourne. And I find that in these really big cities, especially places like Miami, when women hit it 30 plus, they tend to get super competitive and really double down on their looks. They hit the gym all the time. They're getting lip fillers, hair extensions, eyebrows, boob jobs, whatever, to try and kind of compete. And that same, effort I saw that in women who are in the swinging scene.
No way. It's interesting because you and I, we come from a similar background. I mean, I didn't do adult film stuff, but I was doing dating coaching for many, many years. And, that drive to compete as a guy, you get that much earlier. Either you never get it or you get it much earlier because it's you're an 18, 19, 20-year-old guy. You're the lowest value ever. You go to a nightclub completely by yourself, nobody will talk to you unless you start to take action. So that lesson gets kind of imposed on you relatively early on as a man, yo, go to the gym, go do something out of yourself, otherwise you're just going to be left behind, you're going to die a virgin and play fucking Magic the Gathering all day. As a woman, you don't have that. Just like you said, as a woman, you're attractive, you're hot, and that's it. Like most women, they are blessed with really good genetics, so they eat whatever they want. They still look good. Like they just eat. I eat chocolate. I like chocolate all the time, and they still look good until they kind of hit that dipping point, 28, 30. And then all of a sudden they wake up, if they're smart enough, and they're like, okay, if I still want to be relevant on the sexual marketplace, I do have to kind of make something out of myself.
Yeah, totally. It's that kind of idea of like competition. I totally agree with you in the sense that they don't really try to compete. And the one thing that will kind of make a woman competitive, I think, though, is jealousy. Because like I have this kind of theory that jealousy is like a totally different emotion for men and women. I think like if a guy looks back on the times he was like super heartbroken, right, and maybe like a woman, like his girlfriend cheated on him or something like that, like you could associate that, or like maybe she was flirting with other guys, right, in front of him or something. That feeling is of jealousy. Like for a guy, I think it's more akin to like a feeling of betrayal than anything else. You feel like you've just been stabbed in the back.
Yeah.
But with women, you would know this as well as I do, that when a dude is getting attention from other women, right? Let's say you've got a girlfriend and other women are giving you attention and she gets a bit jealous, that makes her way more attracted to you, right? That's, social stuff like that. But I think that feeling of jealousy for women isn't the same as men. I think that they feel more like, it's like a feeling of losing a competition.
Damn, like so right.
And it sparks that up in them.
It's so true. I never thought about it that way, but it's a very differently felt emotion. And you can feel it with women. Like they instantly start shit talking another woman. Like when you're out with like 2 or 3 girls at dinner and an attractive girl walks by, like, oh, you look at her dress. What a slut. And they can't help it. It's right there. I never thought about it that way. You're so right. Like men wouldn't do that. They're not like, oh, look at this guy. What a idiot, I mean, kind of a little bit. They try to alpha shame the other guy, but you're right. It's much more like a feeling of betrayal for us. Dang, I was good. So, do you still do adult films? You don't do them anymore, right?
No. I retired back in 2020. And to be honest, to be perfectly honest, these days I label myself as retired and repenting. I proactively discourage guys from watching porn, consuming porn, getting into porn, engaging in that in any way, shape, or form, because I think it is, one, destructive to men in so many different ways. 2, I think it's destructive to society as a whole. I think it's led us down this rabbit hole of degeneracy, led to the decline of a lot of Western societies. I think it's always one of many contributing factors to it, the normalization of like pornography and degeneracy and stuff. I mean, look at like, if you look at even just forget porn, right? Forget the fact that OnlyFans is literally a household word now, right? Yeah. And anybody in the Western world today would know a woman who has either done or is on OnlyFans currently. I don't think that's a very controversial statement. Forget all that. Look at like just TV shows, music videos, TV shows you'd see on like Amazon Prime or whatever, right? They would be considered pornographic when I was a kid in like the 80s. Yeah. What we're seeing today, it would be considered pornographic. You couldn't we couldn't get access to that when I was a kid. Like we had to go to like the news agents and rummage through their trash to find a nudie mag that they threw out. Yeah. And that was like the jerk-off material for like your entire adolescence. It's very, very different now.
Yeah. What do you, because you mentioned OnlyFans, what do you see in terms of parallels for women on OnlyFans compared to women in the porn industry? Is it the same? Is there a different layer to it?
It really comes down to what they're doing on their OnlyFans. Like, there's a lot of basically every woman who's in it's called the professional porn industry will also have an OnlyFans account. Yeah. And vice versa, a lot of girls now, because it's become so mainstream and so accepted, and I've seen this from the very start. Like I was in porn before OnlyFans was a thing, so I've seen the progression. Yeah. now a lot of girls will start in OnlyFans, and if they get popular enough on OnlyFans, they'll transition that into a porn career in terms of like, working for the big studios. So there's a lot of going back and forth between it. But you do get girls on OnlyFans who don't do, shall we say, like guy-girl content, right? They're only doing solo stuff, or they're not even doing nudes. They're just doing scantily clad bikini or lingerie pic. So there's like all gradients of,
don't you think that's how they start? Because the barrier of entry is low. Like, oh, I'll be on OnlyFans, but it won't show more than my nipples. And then some guys like, oh, I'll give you $500, and they're like, whatever. And then have you seen that yourself with like maybe friends that have progressed?
Totally. Yeah, you see it all the time.
Fuck.
Like, I've seen girls in the porn industry as well who started out only doing like lesbian content. And then over enough years in the industry, they get shot out. They stop getting booked. They stop getting work. The money dries up. And okay, well, now it's time to do, guy-girl stuff. And the trajectory of that is, they've stopped doing they're not getting booked for guy-girl stuff anymore. So now they have to do gangbangs. Now they have to do the really extreme BDSM content to get booked. Like it's just this never-ending spiral. And the same thing with OnlyFans girls is if they don't kind of like wake up to the fact that this is going to apply a stigma to your life forever. Like it ain't going away. The internet is forever. Unless we get hit with an EMP, the internet is forever. And that history is not going to go away. Like if you post yourself anywhere online, eventually some dude is going to recognize it and tell your boyfriend or husband that you were doing. It's good. It's inevitable. And I think because obviously we know women are so susceptible to like, shall we say, groupthink and societal influence and programming, that when in 2020 when everyone was at home and every girl lost their job and this shiny object called OnlyFans was being thrown around, so many of them jumped on it and were like, oh, this is an easy way to make money. This girl over here is making like $1 million a month just showing her feet or whatever. And they get fed these sort of really extreme scenarios, like of the top 0.001% of women on the platform about how much money they're making and how little work they're actually doing. Little do they realize that there's like a whole team of dudes behind the scenes doing all the typing, managing all of her social media accounts, coming up with ideas, et cetera, et cetera. And so thousands of women got psyoped into jumping onto this platform. And the average OnlyFans creator only makes like $100 a month or something like that. If you break down the numbers, they will make fuck all. For basically massively destroying her value, shall we say, in the dating marketplace, and potentially ruining any future chances she has of finding a husband. It's kind of tragic. I went off topic a bit there.
No, all good, man. And it's like you said, it's forever. It's not like that shit is gonna be on the internet. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're gonna shut down your OnlyFans account. I guarantee you, dudes have downloaded it and they will leak it later, and it's gonna be on Reddit and whatnot. So it's on there forever. And the crazy thing is, it's so funny when I watch like talk shows from the 80s or 90s where people sat there smoking. They would just smoke on a talk show. Because back then, they didn't know the long-term repercussions of smoking cigarettes. And I feel like it's kind of similar to OnlyFans right now. Like, we don't know yet what happens to the kids of OnlyFans creators. We are seeing some kids that get bullied in school, but we don't know the phenomenon yet. So I think there's going to be like a whole slew of repercussions coming to us and to these creators. And the other thing that you said, too, it's like I have a multitude of friends, pretty girls in their 20s, early 20s, and they all jumped on OnlyFans. And they all told me the same things, like, yeah, I'm not showing anything, blah, 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 yada-da. 1, 2, 3 years later, they're legitimately getting paid to have sex with men. They basically went from this this slightly kinky OnlyFans thing to literally becoming prostitutes. And, I mean, if you want to call it prostitute, you can call it sugar daddy, sugar mom, whatever, But it's, in essence, they're getting paid to do their thing. And I think, it's almost like an entry-level drug that lulls you in with the constant promise of, just do this one extra thing on top and you'll make more money. And this one extra thing, it goes incrementally. Like, you incrementally asking for more and more compliance. You constantly have that carrot dangling in front of them, and it can quickly go down a rabbit hole that they can't get back from.
Completely. Absolutely. You described it perfectly. And the thing is that carrot is coming from two different sides, right? It's coming from other people in the industry, like, or in the other OnlyFans creators or whatever, kind of flexing how much money they're making. And the girls are like feeling the ping of like jealousy. They're like, oh man, I wish I was making this much money. And then the other influence is coming from their subscribers, the dudes who are in their DM, like tempting them with more like, oh, if you do this, I'll pay you this much money. If you do this kind of video, I'll pay you this much money, et cetera, et cetera. And then also, as I actually now think about it, there's probably a third influence there, which is their manager, whoever is running their account, whoever is doing the DMs is like, well, you could make a lot more money if you just did a blowjob video. Mm-hmm. And then that's where the spiral starts,
It's funny because I once went on a date with a girl, and I'm like, oh, what do you do? She's like, oh, I have an OnlyFans agency. Right. And that was really interesting for me because, I have an online business consulting company. So I was interested merely about the business side of things. I'm like, okay, how does it work? Like, what's the cut that you give to the girls, and so on and so forth. And we talked a little bit, and it was exactly like you said. They have copywriters in predominantly Mexico that are chatting with the subscribers of the girls. So, you're like a horny dude, and you think you're chatting with the girl, and she's like, oh, you're so sexy, send me a video. In reality, it's like Miguel sitting in Playa del Carmen, right? Getting paid per hour for that, And she said something really interesting because I asked her, what are the best converting girls? And she said, you won't believe this, but it's not the attractive girls. Like, if you're just hot model looking, nobody cares on OnlyFans. Guys have become so desensitized from pornography that just a normal attractive girl that is quote unquote their type doesn't cut it for them anymore. So you got to be weird. And she said the best converting girls are like girls that are like missing a limb, or girls that have like a baby face. They look really, really young, even though they're not. Girls that have some sort of genetic weirdness going about. Like, they said, like, those girls are printing money for them so hard. And whenever they have like an average pretty girl, they're like, you're not going to make any money.
You'd be like, guys would be shocked to realize how much like chubby women or like legitimately fat women will make on OnlyFans platforms. You'd be like, the average guy would be like, it's kind of funny because the average guy would say, oh, I would never like fat to like a girl who's overweight, or I would never have sex with a girl who's overweight. Well, somebody is, because they're making a lot of money. There's some of these guys are lying because how else are these girls pulling in the cat if there's not dudes fapping to them,
Why do you think is that?
Absolutely okay.
Where's that coming from?
I don't know, bro. I mean, so I saw a video recently. Do you know who, what's his name? The guy, the Bulletproof Coffee guy.
The what?
The guy that made
Bulletproof Coffee.
Dave Asprey.
Yeah.
I saw a video from him recently. It was funny. The reason that men are attracted to women with like thick thighs and a big butt is because a lot of DHEA fat is stored in the arse and thigh area for women, and that when she's pregnant, those fat stores are used to develop the brain of the child in utero, which leads to higher intelligence. So women with plus thighs actually produce more intelligent kids. So you could say it's actually a genetic, I guess, a biological thing in us to actually go after like thick thighs, which makes, like, to me, that makes sense. Like, BBLs are popular. Like, women get them for a reason. They get that, like, even though we like, you can look at a BBL and you know it's fake. Like, if you've seen one, but if you've seen a real woman and you've seen a girl with a BBL, like, front on, it's very obvious which one's fake. But dudes are still, like, our primal brain is still, like, pinging off of it for a reason. Yeah. So there's got to be something there.
I mean, it's the same with fake tits. It's like, they're fake, but you still like them, But here's what interests me. So we've talked a lot about how a lot of women kind of get slowly tricked into this. I just want to circle back to how it was for you, because it didn't seem like that was it for you. sounded more like you had a conscious decision of like, fuck it, I want to do porn.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it was like for selfish, degenerate reasons. I kind of looked at it as like a hack. That was my like the way I was processing it at the time. I was like, because I was into like the whole in my early 20s, I was into the whole like pickup scene. I was out hitting clubs and stuff and bars like every night for like a year and a half, like developing social skills and things. Took a lot of advice from the company you used to work for, actually.
Nice, man. That's epic to hear, dude.
I actually used to consume a lot of your content, bro. So shout out to you.
Hey, thanks, man. Dude, this is so cool to see, man. You're crushing it, so that's fucking epic.
It's a testament to, what you teach, man, or what you used to teach, actually. But yeah. But where was I going with that? Yeah. So like I was doing that for ages, obviously had some success, had girlfriends and was having interactions with women. And then I sort of stumbled across this idea and I was like, this seems like a loophole. I could like get laid and get paid for it at the same time. So there wasn't. It was definitely. It wasn't. I wouldn't say I was tricked into anything. I was deliberately making the decision.
Yeah.
And that was I tricked into like thinking that it was, not going to have negative impacts on my life. You could make that argument because of the society I grew up in. Like Australia in particular is a very like agnostic society. And if we actually have one of the highest rates of like premarital sex, actually, so kids fuck a lot. And I didn't realize that it was such an extreme example. But you look at numbers, we actually are quite degenerate. But I wouldn't say I was tricked into it. Having gotten out of the industry and stuff, looking back on it, I'm like, I now look at it I feel like I look at it with a very objective lens. Because I wasn't tricked into doing it, but I can look at it now and I can see the negative ramifications it has had on a lot of my my work colleagues. I can see I knew girls at the very, very beginning of their career, and then like 5 years later, they just look like they're in a very dark place.
Yeah.
And like one of the biggest black pills for me was actually my first ever AVN show. So if anyone isn't familiar, like the AVN awards are kind of like the Oscars for porn.
Yeah.
And they had this big presentation at the very beginning of the night, and it was like 5 to 10 minutes long. I think it's called in memorandum or in memoriam or whatever is the correct word for it. But it's basically a presentation of a slideshow of all of the people from the industry who had died in the last year. And that, if it's 5 to 10 minutes long, that's a lot of people.
In the last year, too. Not in total,
Yeah, it's in the last year. And I sat there and I'm like, holy shit, this is insane. Now, okay, not all of them were suicides, right? Not all, but there was a lot of suicides and drug overdoses amongst that. And there was the occasional tragic accident and, maybe they had a health condition or something like that. But there's enough of them. I'm like, this is insane. And that's happening repeatedly every year. So there's something horrendously wrong and dark with the porn industry. I think anyone in the industry would be lying to themselves if they did it.
I mean, you mentioned that, and I saw you talk about this in a reel as well on your Instagram, that so many deaths there's in the industry. You, on the other hand, seem to have gotten out unscathed. In fact, from a marketing perspective, and I want to touch on that later on as well, you did the exact right thing, objectively speaking. What can an ex-porn star do if he wants to get out as a business? Well, teach men how to have sex, teach men how to be an alpha and get women. It's, from a marketing perspective, such a genius move because it's so spot on with what you did before. But other than that, again, we'll touch more about this in a second. I think you came out pretty unscathed. What did you do differently from your colleagues that didn't get out as safely?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I hear that a lot. I've had a few people tell me you seem pretty normal and well adjusted for a guy who went through that. I didn't have any traumatic experiences in it. And to be honest, I actually don't. I think most of the guys in the industry don't really have any bad and traumatic experiences. I know a bunch of performers, from when I was working in it. They all seem very well adjusted. So I don't think I don't think it can have the damaging impact on men the same way it does on women. Personally, that's just what I think. Yeah, so I'm not really sure how I'm a very like I'm pretty like nerdy and like analytic with stuff. So I think maybe I didn't really get too emotionally wrapped up in what I was doing. I guess so. Maybe that's why I got out kind of unscathed. I looked at it more very much as a business.
Okay.
I looked at it from a very professional like lens.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of helped me to like not really identify too much with the scenes I was doing and the characters I was playing and the stuff we would, So that might be explanation for it. I've never actually thought about it too much, like this question you just asked me. So it's a very interesting question.
That it's cool that you mentioned that because I looked at your IMDb and you can see the titles of the movies, and we're not going to read all of them, but really funny ones in there, and it also says the names that your character has in the scenes, and it's like Principal Cooper, Dr. Cooper. How much preparation goes into these characters? What does the process look like? You show up and they're like, yo, put on this doctor's thing, you're gonna be Dr. Cooper, come up with some funny lines, or how does it work?
It's half the time it is like that. So like there's like 3 different kinds of pornos, shall we say, right? There's one like you just described where it's kind of improv. It's like, okay, you're not getting like a motivation for your character or anything. It's like, okay, you're a doctor, she's a patient, improvise, go. Right? That's the vast majority. Then there's ones which are like, there's no plot line. It's like, here's a couch and a cameraman, and you're already naked. Go. Those are called gonzo. And then the third one, which they're actually doing a lot more of these days, and it's kind of like this is how they used to shoot porno. It like way back in the day, in like 70s and 60s, where it's like a movie and there's a plot line and you're a character and there's loads of dialogue to remember. So those things actually do require you to read your script and learn your lines and understand what you're doing and actually do a bit of acting, which those ones are actually the funnest ones for me because I actually really enjoy the acting side of things. I actually playing a bad guy. So I got to play like psychopaths quite a lot. It was actually quite fun. I enjoyed like delving into that psyche because I would consider myself a very nice guy and a very reasonable man. So for me, like being able to explore that aspect of human nature was kind of interesting for me.
Do they like tell you, hey, we want you to shoot a scene with this and this girl? Do you have a saying in regards to like, I like her or she's my type?
You don't get a say in whether you have a certain type. You don't get a say in that.
Okay.
What you do, you get told within like 24 to 48 hours before you shoot a scene, you're told like who you're shooting with, who you're shooting for, and if there's a script, you get given a script or like a shot. That you get that about a day or two before. Now everyone is allowed what we call a no list. So a no list is basically you just list all the people you do not want to work with. That can include directors, and that can include actresses, or if you have beef with like another performer, you can be like, I don't want to be on set with that dude because he's a dickhead. You can actually put that up on your no list, and you can put like certain types of scenes and sex acts on your no list, and your agent will respect that and not book you for stuff like that.
Okay,
it's quite professional the way they do that. Now, dudes don't tend to have a massive no list. I actually ended up with a relatively big no list because a lot of women were just pissing me off.
Oh, well,
so I kept adding them to my no lists. Women tend to have a bigger no list than the dudes.
Does it? I mean, what does a set look like? Does it look like a movie set? Like you have a buffet? Like, hey, grab some food in between if you want, or how does that work?
It's not quite like it's a bit like, imagine if some college drama students were filming a movie for a project.
Okay.
It's that level of budget and complexity. So you'll have like a typical set you'll have like a little bit of food in like a makeup area with a girl, and you'll have a makeup artist getting the girl's makeup ready in the morning. Somewhere around there, there'll be like, not a buffet, but there'll be like some snacks, like some Haribo gummies, maybe like some peanut, like really little cheap shit.
Yeah.
There'll be a little, and some water. There's always loads of water on set and stuff like that. So like, main artists, you'll have like, obviously the director producer, who's usually the main camera guy as well. You'll have a PA who sets up the lights, sets up the, the healthy change, he sets up the set. And that's typically it. There might be a second PA in there somewhere for bigger productions, but it's not that big. Like you'll have like a couple of light stands, couple of lights, maybe one camera, maybe two, and that's basically it. And the thing is, a lot of the like cameramen and directors in the porn industry, particularly in LA, are actually classically trained film school graduates who couldn't get work in Hollywood. So it's a very interesting dynamic because they're actually really, really good at their camera work. They're amazing at it. But here's the other thing, because the adult industry doesn't have like a union, they're able to do the job of like 4 people than with regular film sets, right? So they're the grip, I forget like the key, the lighting guy. They're a bunch of stuff simultaneously, and they're like, there's no health and safety regulations. They're like getting on a ladder, like sticking something up on a, so because there's no union to regulate that shit. So they're actually super efficient with their time, and they're really quick. But because the secret to the porn industry is that everyone actually just wants to go home. Seriously, everyone wants to get their paycheck and then go home. That's everyone's goal, basically. So, like, my job as a performer was always like, okay, get an erection on time, so no one's waiting around, and get the job done. That's basically it. It's not as it's fun. It's a funny set to be on. Like everyone's cracking jokes and having a laugh. Because there's no like HR department saying you can't make a sexist joke. You definitely can make jokes about dicks and tits and ass.
Yeah,
because it's the situation you're in. So it's kind of this weird dynamic on set. It's a lot more fun than people think, but it's also a lot more professional than people would think. There's tons of paperwork, lots of waiting around. It's not like a big party.
I mean, you mentioned having to perform under pressure, and I know this is something that you teach to your clients now, how to perform, in the bedroom under pressure. Because I know as a guy, like even without a freaking porn filming, it can be that you feel under pressure. What were kind of like things that you used to do back then? Did you ever have to deal with pressure, or were you just kind of like a natural at it?
Oh, bro, I did. I have so much pressure. I wouldn't say I was I would say I was like half a natural at it because when I first, like probably year and a half, I had a lot of like early wins and success. And then there was a couple of scenes I had probably about a year and a half into it, which I like fucked up, and I had like a seriously bad performance, boner problems and stuff. And
how do you define a bad
like struggling to get it up? Basically, that's a bad performance.
Okay.
And I had two really big instances like that within like 6 months with two kind of big directors, and it caused, because I'm such a fucking nerd, it caused me to like dive into like the psychology and biology of like anxiety and erections and things, and that's where I get a lot of my like teachings from today. Is like, had that issue like once or twice, and my career depended upon it. So I was like, I better fucking fix this.
Yeah.
I'm out of a job, and I basically just nerded out for like years and just kept trying to find every single biohack I could to fix it. And I mean, really basic stuff like good nutrition, not drinking, getting good sleep, making sure your testosterone levels are optimal, getting plenty of sunlight, lifting heavy weights, sprints, things like that are great for cardiovascular health. They're great for like overall health and well-being and mental health and stuff. But then in terms of, dealing with like pressure and anxiety, one of the interesting things is optimizing like DHT levels is very important for that. So a lot of guys think that like testosterone is the be-all and end-all of like male sexual performance and like confidence and things like this. That's actually not true. DHT which is I think that it's dihydroxytestosterone. I believe it's good. I used to be a chemist. I should remember this stuff. But DHT is actually like 10 times androgenic than testosterone.
No shit.
DHT is that molecule which actually gives guys that kind of calm, confident feeling that you want as a man. Like when dudes, like for example, when older men get on TRT, for example, right? Mm-hmm. They get back a lot of that confidence that they had as a younger man, and that sort of reassurance and the ability to tolerate stress. But it's not actually the testosterone that's going to give it to them. It's the DHT that gets made from that gives them that calm, relaxed confidence and that stress tolerance. See, if you're the kind of guy who gets nervous really easily and gets anxious very easily, and let's, for example, say has boner problems in the bedroom because of your mental patterns, I guarantee that you have low DHT. Guarantee it. Mm. Vice versa. If you never have an issue like getting a boner, if you could do like porn and like get an erection in front of a group of people, guaranteed you will have high DHT. Guaranteed.
Well, I mean, what did you do to get that DHT high?
I mean, there's a bunch of stuff you do. You can. I used to take a boner shake, so I used to take like.
I heard you talk about that. Yeah,
4 raw eggs, and like I'd add a bit of vanilla protein powder to make it taste like. So I'd slam that at night before, and then the next morning you'll wake up with like a raging hard on.
Wait, so it's just eggs and protein powder, not water or anything?
Oh yeah, a bit of water, yeah.
Okay, and why raw eggs, not cooked or?
I just found it easier to drink raw eggs. And
it sounds cool. Okay, yeah, all right.
Sounds cool, yeah. That's cool. I don't want to waste time cooking eggs. I'm just going to drink. That makes things faster, bro.
But and then we said, and so you would drink 4 raw eggs and some protein whey powder, and the next morning you would wake up with a raging erection. Is that scientifically proven, or is just your own?
Well, that was my personal experience, and
yeah.
I've shared that with a bunch of other people. So there's a lot of anecdotal experience, shall we say, to back that up. But I remember reading. The reason I would do that is I remember reading something early on that said that your peak test. So your body needs cholesterol to build testosterone in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. And then your body needs testosterone to create DHT. Mm-hmm. So it's there's multiple links in the chain there. But I remember reading that your body's like peak testosterone production happens in the early hours of the morning.
Yeah,
I think it's like between 2 and 5 a.m. if you have like a regular sleeping schedule. So if you load up your body with a bunch of cholesterol before you sleep, obviously like healthy sources of cholesterol, then you've kind of given your body all the building blocks it needs to crank out a bunch of testosterone while you're asleep, and then you should hypothetically, this seems to be the case, wake up with higher than average testosterone levels, and thus hornier, more confident, raging boners, and you're good to go. So that's why I used to do that before every scene.
Interesting. You still do that?
When I need to, yeah. If the situation calls for it, yeah.
Now, you mentioned also that that's a pretty tight-knit community, and there's no political correctness whatsoever in the porn industry. How about health?
I would say there's a shitload of political correctness.
Okay,
well, actually, there's actually a shitload of political correctness. It's a very it's this weird. Sorry to cut you off. It's this weird dynamic where it's simultaneously very, you can crack all these kinds of funny sexual jokes and there's that freedom with it. But while simultaneously there's a massive cancel culture.
Oh, no way.
It's very, shall we say, like liberal woke ideology.
No way.
Which makes sense. But it's based in California. So all of that liberal woke ideology is ingrained into it. And if you step out of line in any way, if you wrong think, you will get canceled.
Like what, for example? Because it seems to me like such a counter thing to do. It's like the women, they get fucked by the guys, but then always like, what can you do to get canceled in the porn industry?
Not be a feminist for a start.
Okay.
Be politically right-leaning. That'll get you canceled. Those two real basic ones. So if anyone ever came out in support of Trump, for example,
Oh, no way.
gone, like you're out, done.
Damn.
If you critiqued feminism in any way, shape, or form, out, gone, done. Yeah.
Damn, I had no idea, man. Like, I did not think. I mean, kind of now, retrospectively, now that you said it, it kind of does make sense. But I would have never thought. Hey, folks, real quick, if you're enjoying this episode, drop us a like if you're on YouTube, maybe even a comment, whoop-de-doo. Or if you're listening to this on iTunes or Spotify, give us a 5-star rating. It really helps out this podcast tremendously. We've had so many amazing people on the podcast recently. Thank you so much for allowing me to be in this position where I can get more and more awesome people on. We have a lot more epic people in the bank. You'll be super surprised. So drop us a like, drop us a comment, drop us a 5-star rating. Thank you so much, and continue. How is it, because everybody's having unprotected sex? I always wondered, like, do you guys do tests beforehand? How accurate is that? Can you even know? Because, you know, for some things, like, you can have something and you can do an STD test and it's still negative because it needs like 2-3 weeks run time or whatever it's called. So how do people deal with that in the scene?
So it's mandatory to get a test at least every 2 weeks. So there's like a database called PASS in the US. And yeah, so basically all of the directors and producers and talent managers have access to the database. The talent themselves don't have access. We can't see other performance tests and stuff, but, you know, which makes sense. It's like an anonymity, privacy and stuff.
Yeah.
But the agent who's booking you and the directors who want to book you, they have access to everyone's tests. So they can see who's clean and who's not. So at least minimum every 2 weeks, often a lot more frequent than that. Everyone will go in and get a blood and urine test, and that tests for all of the major STDs. And like you said, like there's a window, right, between infection and being able to test to see if you've actually got something. And that's why, like, basically everything gets caught. Like there's I don't think, for example, there hasn't been like a HIV transmission on a porn set in like 20-something years.
Wow.
Now with the other stuff, so for example, like chlamydia, I've known a couple of people who got chlamydia or they got tests. Actually, I had this experience once. So I got to set one day, and usually like your test results will come back. Like if I get tested today, by 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, I'll have my results and I'm good to go. My test was good. I rocked up. The woman I was shooting with, her test results hadn't come back yet. Sometimes they're a bit late. Cool. The director was like, her test results haven't come back yet. Let's just shoot all the dialogue stuff. So, anyway, let's shoot that. And then, you know, that'll take us like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then by then the test results will be back. Like, great idea. Oh, we did all that. An hour and a half had passed. Still no test results. And we're sitting around just wait. And the director's like, look, it's your call. Do you want to shoot with her? And like, because, you know, it's very, like, she hasn't got any symptoms or anything like that. You know, do you want to shoot with her and we'll just get the day done? I'm like, thought about it for a bit. I'm like, okay, you know what, fuck it. I kid you not, I get my pants off and she gets a text message and she goes to check her phone and she's testing positive for chlamydia.
Oh.
I was this close. This got on, like sticking my dick in it. I was like, missed that narrowly. But what happened was, the reason she got something wasn't from somebody in the industry. He had been to Coachella, like, the weekend before. And she'd fucked some dude at Coachella. So the funny thing is, like, and I'd actually love to, from my understanding, you're actually less likely to catch something from someone in the porn industry than you are to catch something from someone who's quite promiscuous, shall we say, and goes to like raves and music festivals or something. Because one, like, we get tested every 2 weeks, and two, our job depends upon it. So we can't shoot. We're forbidden to shoot if we have anything. And the average like, I've seen people trying to make the argument like, oh, porn stars have a higher incidence of STDs. I think I would suspect, and I don't know the exact numbers of this, but I would suspect that we have a higher incidence just because we're getting tested more.
Yeah. Probably.
The average person will get tested every 2 weeks at minimum. The average person doesn't get tested at all.
Yeah.
If they do, they maybe test one once or in their life because someone told them they might have.
Yeah.
If you're getting tested more often, of course you're going to pop dirty more often. If you're not, but if the whole population was getting tested the same rate that porn stars were getting tested, I would suspect that the incidence would actually be quite high.
I mean, it's crazy. Like, the thing that really helped me with being really aware of my health in regards to STDs as well was me being a vegetarian for 12 years. So because I don't eat meat, I constantly did blood tests to make sure I got all the vitamins, I got the zinc, I got the iron. And then at the same time, I just got all STDs tested just in case as well. But I know I was not the norm. I know the average person, like you said, they never get tested. They're like, why would I? Like, I only slept with Timmy from work, but you never know. And there's also this like crazy calculation of like, well, Timmy from work has had sex with 3 women over the past 6 months. And these 3 women each had sex with 4 guys over the past. And now all of a sudden, like, you have unprotected sex with a person, but the connection is you've almost had sex with 50 people, right? Yeah. So that math just kind of starts adding up like crazy. So it's important to get tested all the time, even if you're not a porn actor.
Now, what's funny about that, if you did that same mathematical calculation for people in the porn industry, there's actually not that many dudes in the industry who work with people. So they're all the women are having sex with like 20 dudes. The same.
That's a good point, actually.
So like that branching is actually smaller.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and just to circle back to the marketing aspect, like I said before, it's such a genius move to say, okay, look at me. I used to be the guy who had to perform under pressure. I had to be high in testosterone. I had to make sure that, my sperm count is good and all that jazz. And now I teach that to men. Was that a plan that you had beforehand? Like, first I'm going to do the porn thing, then I'm going to do that. Did it come spontaneously? Did you have the idea? Did someone else come with that idea? What was the process like in that transition?
Yeah. So, like I said before, I'm a complete nerd, and I nerded out about sex from long before I got into porn.
Mm.
And so, learning like sexual techniques, learning like, how to please women, that side of things. And then when I got into porn, I was, nerding out on, I guess, the biohacking side of things and the how to control my own body.
Mm.
And so I kind of had this nerdy base of both those sides of things. And I got to this point, a couple of years into my career, and I thought, it would be a good idea. I'd like to write all this stuff down.
Smart.
Into a book. Look, I didn't think about, my brain wasn't thinking, I'll turn this into a business. My brain was thinking, I'll write a book because I don't know anyone else who sat down and wrote down all the stuff that I know. And like, the plan was to put it in a book form and sell it to the public, like the average guy, right? And then keep doing what I was doing. But then 2020 rolled around, COVID hit, and the industry shut down. And we couldn't work for 0 months. So my income went to 0, and I was like, and I'd already started writing this book. And then, I guess, when you haven't got like a deadline for something, if you dragged on forever, suddenly there was a deadline of you need to pay rent. So that lit a fire under my ass. I finished the book. I pushed it out through my Twitter and stuff. And it was like I got a little bit of money. And then but what the big thing that kind of changed my direction was a kind of a combination of 2 things, really. Like, one, at that time, it was very serendipitous. At that time, at the beginning of 2020, I was kind of becoming very disillusioned with the porn industry, primarily because of the cancel culture I was talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
I'd seen there was a couple of guys in that space of a year who've been falsely accused of sexual assault and sexual harassment on set. Mm. And there was like video evidence. Luckily, there was like behind the scenes video evidence. The women who were accusing the guys were full of shit.
Wow.
And everybody in the industry was just piling on these guys. And I was like, what the hell is going on? This is absurd. And so that made me want to quit. And then, the work stopped. And then I cracked this book out, and I was actually, I was kind of consuming a lot of what you would call red pill content for like a year prior to that. So guys like Rollo Tomasi, Rich Cooper, if anyone's familiar with those authors. And I reached out to both those guys at the time because it was so serendipitous. OnlyFans had become big. It had become a household name within a couple of months. And I was in the industry and I was a fan of their work. So I just reached out to them and I was like, hey, I know about this and I'm a fan of your content. I could talk about this from your perspective. But show. And it was my first ever interview on YouTube ever. And it looked very, very well. And then I started doing that with a few other content creators in that space. And within like a month or two, I had completely not only replaced the monthly income I was making from pornography, I doubled it with my book sale. And then I was like, this is a way out. Not only can I now get out of this industry I don't like, I can actually help dudes. I can actually do something positive. I can actually contribute to the world in a positive way by helping dudes have better sex, better relationships, fix their health, not get divorced because their wife's a bitter cunt because she isn't getting dick down properly. I can fix all this stuff. Sorry to be swearing on your podcast.
Dude, please, by all means.
Yeah, so then I started. So I was like, okay, I started a YouTube channel and the rest is history. I sort of went everything, just all these stars aligned quite perfectly. So it wasn't really a long-term conscious decision from the beginning. I just started to recognize all these opportunities in front of me, and I took those opportunities.
Pretty smart. So you wrote the book, you want to sell it, then you were like, I don't have an audience, except for maybe my porn fans, but I know Rollo Tomasi. You reach out to those folks, asked them to be on their podcast, gave a ton of value there, and then from that blew up your own brand, so to speak.
Yeah, very much so. And I one of the reasons, I kind of took the strategy, I guess you could say. The exact same strategy I used to get into pornography in the first place was the exact same strategy I used for this. And I call it like the stepping stone strategy. So if you've ever read a book called Trust Me, I'm Lying, Confessions of a Media Manipulator.
I heard of that.
It's by a guy called Ryan Holiday. He used to work for Tucker Max and he used to work for American Apparel. And he has this very, very interesting concept in there where he would kind of piggyback. If you wanted to get his brand written about in like mainstream media, he would piggyback from very, very small niche blogs, right? Let's say he was talking about something political. Let's say he wanted to write something political, right? He'd find a really, really tiny niche blog and he'd leak a story to them from a fake email address. They would write about the story and then he would leak the same story and that article to a slightly bigger news, and then a slightly bigger one and a slightly bigger one. And he'd use this chain of credibility, this chain of previous social proof to get to bigger and bigger outlets. And he would eventually get published in like the New York Times and Huffington Post and all things like these kind of things. I actually used that exact same strategy way back in my 20s to do a Kickstarter and start one of my first ever businesses. I did that exact same. I got written about in American newspapers and UK newspapers from the comfort of my living room in Australia using the same strategy. And then I used that exact same strategy again, but I applied it to porn companies. So I would start with the really tiny ones, get work with them, then use that as credibility that I could do the job and work with a slightly bigger one and then a slightly bigger one, et cetera, et cetera. And then I did the exact same. I applied the same strategy, which I'd used twice successfully already when it came to podcasting and it came to YouTube games. So I was like, okay, I was fortunate that I had a really big one, a couple of massive ones to start with, which was Rollo Tomasi and Rich Cooper, two big channels. But then I leveraged that and I'm like, hey, I've been on these shows. I could talk about all these things with your audience. And a lot of guys found I was offering a lot of value. And that, like you just said, you offer people value, it's a win-win scenario. Of course, they're going to collaborate with you, And so that's exactly the strategy I applied early on.
It's such a simple but such a genius strategy. I mean, that's how I did it with this that's how I did it with this podcast as well. Like, if you look at the first episodes, they were literally just my friends, like my videographer Primoz, right? I'm like, hey man, like, let's do a podcast. And then the funny thing was, like, I always thought, I have like 3 people that could go on my podcast, and then after that I'm fucked because I don't know anyone else. And then every single time I'm like, okay, that's the last person that comes to my mind that wants to come on. After that, I have no more guests. And then it keeps going. It's been going for almost 2 years now. And I'm like, fuck, I still get to speak to more and more epic people, right? Including you. I've had Ty Lopez on last week. And I'm like, it's just like you said, it's because you just use the last person as credentials. Like, hey, I just had this and that guy on. Do you want to come on my podcast? And people are like, oh, well, that guy did it. Fuck yeah, I'll do it. And that just kind of like gives you legitimacy also because, we run a lot of ads. We spend like $50,000 on ads a month. So people see the ad and they're like, who the fuck is this guy? Stupid dork, silly tattoos, glasses are too big. And then I pop up organically and they're like, wait, they got the XYZ person on the podcast? Wow, like they gotta be legit. So it just really helps. Plus, for me, and that's kind of like the main reason why I have the podcast, I get to talk to cool people, right? Like if you reach out to someone like, hey, can I invite you for fucking dinner and ask you a bunch of fucking questions for 2 hours? Nobody's going to say yes to that. But if you say, hey, let's record it, let's not even have dinner, record it, we'll call it a podcast. People are like, fuck yeah, let's do it. I'm down, I really recommend to every human being that is somewhat looking to build a brand or start a business, make a fucking podcast. And look, my podcast, there's been episodes that got like 50 views. Doesn't matter, man. And there's podcast episodes that get 25,000 downloads right away in the first week. So, I never really even look at the numbers either. I have my videographer, my head of visuals. He gives us an update at the end of each month and just saying, here's the episode's ranking. But other than that, I don't look at the fucking numbers. I don't give a shit because I just want to talk to cool people and I wanted to slowly but steadily build my brand. And I also like long form much better. I love ranting. I love rambling. I love talking about deeper topics. It's so much better than just like, well, we got 9 minutes. Mr. Stirling Cooper, say something provocative so we can cut a fucking Instagram reel into that. I mean, you did say some pretty good shit. We will cut it into reels. But at the same time, like, I like just having longer, deeper conversations,
Yeah, I think in today, like, business today is very much like about brand. Like, we've made a big shift from like kind of corporate brands to like personal brands in the last like decade at least. And content is clearly king nowadays. And attention, like eyeballs, is like the most important metric.
Yeah.
So everyone is doing. It's kind of like a meme going around now. Like, like, too many people are doing podcasts. We need more carpenters and bricklayers and shit.
Yeah.
Which is true. I do agree with that. We need more.
You will snap back at some point. You're like, hey, who's going to build our fucking house?
It will. That's the thing. It will snap back. And that's just inevitable.
Very good point. And also the thing is, like, carpenters, plumbers, they make pretty good money. Like, those folks all make 6 figures a year. It's funny. Right. There's people who rather eat shit with an online business, barely making ends meet for years, but they have the freedom, and there's some carpenter dude or like a plumber who just fixes toilets all day, just making easy 8K a month, It's fun.
Yeah, totally. And I personally like seeing hardworking guys make good money. It makes me happy.
Yeah, it's good.
But the one thing I'll say to the whole idea of like, content is king, and you said before anyone with a personal brand should make a podcast. The thing is, like this, when people get into this sort of online space, there's so many different things you have to do. Like, there's so many different ways, like so many different platforms you kind of need to post stuff to. You got TikTok, you got X, you got YouTube, you got your email list, you got like a bunch of stuff. And the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that everything is like repurposable.
Yeah, that's the best.
Like we talk for like 2 hours, cool. There might be like a 5-minute bit of me being a total dickhead and it's hilarious.
Yep.
That's now a short, like a 5-minute clip for YouTube. That's now like 5 short form pieces of content for Instagram and TikTok, and you can post it to X. And you can also turn that rant into an email, and you can turn that rant into a thread for X. Like everything, like if you don't have to like reinvent the wheel every single time.
Yeah.
If you have a banger piece of content, use it for repurpose it for everything possible. Because it's kind of like throwing darts at a dartboard in the dark. You're never really sure what is going to resonate. Like, it pisses me off half the time, but I'll sit down, I'll like a super well thought out video.
Oh yeah,
nutrition or like the bioscience behind this hormone and why it's important, or like a step-by-step guide on how to like really improve this aspect of your life, and no one gives a shit.
Nobody gives a shit. That's always the best.
Then I make a video about like how to jizz more, and it gets a million views. I'm like, okay.
And it's funny because that's the video I watched, and I could see you reading off. You had like all the notes on a piece of paper. Like, oh yeah, it's called. And you like reading off the chemical compounds from it, and I'm like, it's still really good. And people, I can still absolutely see why people click on it. And it's and the coolest thing nowadays is you can do so much with AI. Just the other day, I was because I'm creating some AI programs for our clients, and I'm like, I wonder if I could have AI take a YouTube video of mine and just write into an article. And now I'm posting once a week on freaking Medium, and it's a fully fledged article with like funny, like it's charismatic, and it's literally just transcribed from my YouTube video, and then I gave certain prompts to ChatGPT. Because if you just to transcribe it, it's like, haha, like it's kind of weird to read if it's exactly written like, like I said it. But then you feed it to ChatGPT, you mess around with prompts a little bit, and usually what it does, it comes out with some shitty one-page article of just like some bullet points, and then like, no, ChatGPT, I don't want you to do that. I want you to make it a proper article, make it longer, but don't just transcribe it, kind of like that. Then it spits out a perfect article. And then just like you said, from there, you make a tweet. From there, you make your short form videos. From there, okay, so now we have this 2-hour-long podcast. There was a quick 30-second part that went viral on Shorts. So now let's make a medium length 9-minute YouTube video on that topic. And it's almost like a pyramid. It just goes down further. And then all of a sudden, you even realize that topic in and of itself, I could talk so much about. It really hits a pain point in my audience. Let's create a program from it. So now you create an entire program just about, whatever, how to ejaculate more. It's just an entire low-ticket program. You sell it on the front end for $3, $19. Then you have a sales team reach out to all the buyers. They're now getting these people on the phone and sell them the high-ticket program, one-on-one mentoring with Stirling, $25,000. Now you're like, it went all the way from a random tweet that you did while in between bench press sets to an article, to a YouTube long form, to a program, and now you're making money from. It's so crazy. If you're smart about it, a lot of people get so discouraged by the overwhelming amount of media platforms that are out there. I know I got to dance on fucking TikTok, and I got to understand that algorithm. But like you said, in reality, it's all about reducing, reusing, and recycling. Like you reduce the amount of time per platform that you have to invest in. You reuse your ideas, and you can adapt it natively to the platform's output, and you recycle certain like recycling basically means you take the exact same piece of content you posted. So for example, an Instagram Reel can also be posted on TikTok as it is, can also be posted on YouTube Shorts as it is. So you can get so much handled. And the cool thing is, like because you said like you've been following me since my old brand, that's what we've been using, that to our advantage, that omnipresence. I was one of the first guys within RSD that said, because I was younger, I was less tired and worn out from touring like everybody else, like Julian or Jeffrey Tyler. So I was like, I had like all this fresh energy, and I'm like, I want the average RSD Max follower to go on YouTube and boom, there's Max's latest video. Then I want them to go on Facebook, check how their aunt is doing, and boom, there's a post by Max. Then I want them to go on Instagram and scroll around, boom, there's a post by Max. Like I want them to not escape from my content. And that omnipresence basically leads to ultimate trust. You know this better than anyone else. People will come to you on the street and be like, oh my God, I feel like I know you, right? You've never seen them before, but they've consumed all your content, all these platforms. They're like, oh my God, you're like my brother. You're like my big brother. And that's such a powerful effect that you couldn't create that 30 years ago. Even if you were a huge company like Coca-Cola, you could spend billions on marketing, people wouldn't fucking have that effect. Now, though, with your stupid $800 iPhone and nothing else, no team, no nothing, you can create that effect, and that's pretty powerful.
It's reduced, like, social media has reduced the threshold or the barrier to, it's reduced the barrier to entry for celebrity status. That's what it's done. Like,
exactly. And that is huge.
Yeah, look at how many people blow up on TikTok.
Insane.
So many, like, just random people who are doing stuff from the comfort of their living room or whatever, who have millions of followers, was never not at all possible. Like 10 years ago, 15 years ago was possible.
Yeah.
And the barrier to entry is so low. And the really cool thing, TikTok started out this way. It's kind of like dialing down the natural organic growth, shall we say, quite a lot. I think, but simultaneously, I think Instagram has dialed it up a bit more.
Yeah.
So it's kind of leveled each other out a bit. It's actually not about followers anymore.
True.
It's more about, like, your content getting found in the discover feed and the recommended more than anything else. In places like Instagram and places like TikTok, I think. And Twitter X right now has also made that kind of transition, where then it's not really about follower account. It's about, do you post stuff that is engaging to people and makes them want to comment and start conversations and have a little back and forth? Like, I am just the biggest discovery for me in the last year and a half was basically, if I can get two complete strangers
to discuss things in your comments,
to argue with each other under one of my tweets, it'll explode.
That's the best one.
I don't have to do anything. I just need two people to hate each other.
Exactly.
My stuff explodes. It's so weird.
It's such a good point. It's like the meme of Michael Jackson eating popcorns in the first row in the cinema. That's you, you know? I've noticed this too. I'm just like, I noticed two people getting at each other, and I'm like, I have the perfect argument to make both of them be at peace, but I'm like, I'm gonna no fucking way. I'm gonna let them fight it out. I'm just saying thank you for the extra engagement, you know? I mean,
I'm naturally not very good at doing that, because, like, if someone makes a comment on my tweet or something, I'll be like, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And that's useless. That's terrible for engagement. I need to hire somebody to be like a professional troll.
Yeah.
And just stalk all my comments and just start arguments with people.
That's a good idea. That's a good, I mean, that might, dude, we are laughing about this now. Maybe in 3 years, that's going to be a legit business, you know? Oh, and then there will be mentoring programs that teach you how to become a troll. Like, become your own freedom troll. You make $10K a month, and all you do is you get paid by big influencers to start fights. Fuck, we should even cut that out. I'm not even going to give that information. This is a great program.
All right, Max. Let's do this business together.
Let's do it, man. So you basically, I already know how to frame it. It's like, there's tons of influencers out there. All of them want to go viral. There's one thing that makes them go viral, that is comments. But they can't always get the comments. So if you're in there and you start insinuating fights, verbal battles, they can pay you commission, whatever, per 1,000 views. You get $10. So if you get 1 million views, that's like 10K per commission right there. I don't know, my math is off, but that could totally work, man. That could totally work.
Speaking of kind of weird out there business models, have you ever run into these Instagram scammers who try to get your account taken down?
Oh yeah. I could tell you about. I've gotten blocked 8 times by those guys.
I think I've had my account suspended 4 times now from guys like that.
Jeez.
And in case you didn't know, there's an entire literally, like you described a second ago, there's academies, online groups, membership groups that dudes can sign up to learn how to be one of these scammers.
Jesus.
Get access to all the resources to pull off the scam successfully, and how to report people through, how to create the bots, how to mass report someone on Instagram, get their account taken down, had it, and then had to basically blackmail them for several $1,000s to get their account back.
Damn.
There's entire business models around it.
I had no idea. I mean, it completely makes sense now. I had no idea, though. And it was all. And the funny thing was, of course, the meta support is so fucking useless. Like, I remember I would get a DM by this guy, and it was like one of these like stupid NFT monkeys as a profile picture, you know, like Bored Apes. And he's like, "Hey, I was paid." The DM is always the same. "Hey, somebody paid me to mass report your thing. Unless you pay me whatever $3,000 in Bitcoin." And I, of course, never replied, right? And then I got blocked first time. Thank God I have a lot of connections at Meta, personal friends, ad support people that then later on helped me out. But before that happened, I got blocked. I got banned once. We got it back. Then I got the same message 2 days later, right? So I literally messaged Meta support, and we had prioritized support because we spend so much on Meta ads. I'm like, "Hey, here's a screenshot of the scammer. It happened 2 hours ago. He will mass report me. Here's what he will do. He will mass report me for impersonation. In case you guys get that mass reported, don't let it go through." And they're like, we'll see what we can do. Of course, 2 hours later, blocked. They didn't give a shit. Then I emailed them because I still had like the email thread open. I'm like, "Hey, the thing I told you would happen just happened. Can you get my access back?" And they're like, "I can't do that. We have to like escalate it up to the..." So dumb. So fucking dumb. But
I'll tell you exactly why Meta support is so trash in those circumstances. And it's because the guy that is high up that chain of support is on the payroll of the scammer. This is why Meta support is totally useless. It's all just one giant scam going on in Silicon Valley. It's like all that happens is all these pieces of shit in San Francisco. They connect with these nerds at Meta. They tell them on the side, "Hey, I'll throw." This is how verification used to work as well.
Yeah, I remember.
I'll fling you $5,000 if you put the blue check mark on this account.
Yeah,
and the nerd's like, "Sure," presses a button. Meanwhile, that guy is charging someone else $20,000 to get his blockchain. That's the scam that was running for. I think it's still running, but it's been going on for forever. And now it's progressed into, "Hey, I will escalate this. Like, don't unban this guy and I'll pay you X amount of dollars, or unban this guy and I'll pay you X amount of dollars." It's the same nerds at Meta getting bribed or taking bribes from these pieces of shit blackmailers. They're all in cahoots with it. That's why the Meta support is trash, because it's trash from the top down.
Is that still an issue? I haven't had that issue since you could get the regular verification for like $19 a month or something like that.
Well, I've got apparently I now my account is now shielded, so people can try to take my account down through that process, and it won't work. So,
okay,
fingers crossed that stays.
How do you know is it one of these guys that said just pay me and I'll shield it?
You know what? It's kind of one of those guys. It's basically one of those guys. However, it is somebody who like, the dude has an Instagram profile. He shows his face. He has videos of his lifestyle, like of his life. Like, okay, it's not like an anonymous account with a Bored Ape profile picture. It's actually a human being with a phone number and a name and a face.
That's good.
Like, and I know where he lives. Like, it's there's enough. You know, like, if I can, like, get to you, I can at least trust you a bit.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, I'll work with someone like that to, like, counteract all the other people who are who don't show any of that information.
Yeah.
So,
that makes sense.
It's a fucked up situation to be in the first place. But it's kind of like, okay, if I want to have this business running on Instagram, I kind of got to play that game. So,
I mean, it also leads back to what we said earlier, that omnipresence, because I always tell my clients, my beginner clients, focus on a singular platform first until you're making roughly $30,000 a month from that. Because if you do it before that, you get burnt out too quickly. You never really figure out a single platform, and you just kind of have 500 views everywhere instead of like blowing up on one. But then once you make $30,000 a month, I recommend everyone to then start branching out on other platforms to really become really, really ultra bulletproof. When you've seen it with Andrew Tate's great example of that. He was so provocative, still is. He has all these crazy clips of him, but he's become too big to fail because even when he did get canceled, he was still everywhere, because like he didn't even need his own account anymore. People would still fucking post his clips, still have him on the podcast, and it's kind of like it's kind of like you're attacking for defense. It's like you get so good, so omnipresent everywhere that even when you do get deplatformed, they cannot silence you. And that's pretty genius that he did that.
That's the definition of being anti-fragile.
Yeah, amen. It's a great book too, yeah.
Yeah. So like, because I actually have another friend who is currently going through a very, very similar like cancellation process. Got his like X account suspended. And I sent him a voice note saying, I'm like, mate, now is the time to do a podcast to him.
Yeah.
Because, like, you're now topical and you're controversial and you're topical and you just got nuked. So you can't post stuff, but everyone else wants you on their show now because your shit will go viral.
Yeah.
Like, that is being anti-fragile. It's like, it doesn't matter what they do to you. You're so, like you said, omnipresent that everyone still wants to talk about. And the only way you can fuck that up is to just recede into the shadow.
Become irrelevant. That's the only way you can mess that up. Just become irrelevant. Yeah. That's a very good point. It's almost like as someone that gets deplatformed, you almost become a martyr. Like, oh, he or she got deplatformed. Now let's all hear their voice. I mean, like how many people have gotten deplatformed and next thing you know, they were on Joe Rogan. Because he's like, oh, tell us about being censored, It's like, and that's what the crazy woke people don't understand. By canceling someone, you do the exact fucking opposite. It's what is it called? The Streisand effect? It's the Barbara Streisand effect? What's that fucking effect called? It's like when you're trying to put something under a rug, it actually gets more attention. You remember the photo of Beyonce at the Super Bowl where she looked really weird, like when she was dancing, and then there's like, she looked like this, and then well, let me pull it up on the screen. Beyonce photo. I'm just typing in Beyonce photo. Let's see if it pulls up on Google. And it was such an ugly photo of her that they tried to take it down, but of course everybody started blowing it up. Let's see, photo Super Bowl. There we go. This one. You see that? They're like, we don't want to have this on. She looks really unsexy. And of course, the moment they wanted to delete it, everybody saved it and rebuilt this one here. Look at that. So that's what happens when they want to deplatform you. Like, you become more interesting. That's just human nature. We all want the forbidden fruit, And
I mean, I think that in particular is like that's meme culture. Right there.
Exactly.
That is like Zoomer meme culture. Like the Zoomers, I love the Zoomer generation because they don't take anything seriously.
Yeah.
They just like nothing is off limits. If you try to like censor something, they're going to blow up. If you, it's just they never let you forget. If you say something retarded, they'll always bring it up again. It's so funny. Like they are hilarious, and it's that's the internet we're in now. Is the meme culture internet.
You're a walking meme. That's the thing. That I see your content. You're fully tapping into that. Like when people watch you on Instagram Reels, they see a muscular, bald guy in a baller sports car, just driving around with a nice watch and just rambling of like, yeah, there's only two genders. Like they shouldn't. The kids shouldn't be able to pick their gender. Like if you were a less a good indicator of how well your branding is how easily can people imitate you and make fun of you, right? Like how easy is it to make an Andrew Tate video? You just put on a fake cap that makes you look bald. You put sunglasses on, you have a cigar, and you're like, what color is your Bugatti? And everybody's like, oh, that's Andrew Tate, right? Or how many fucking caricature videos are there of Tai Lopez? Or here in my garage, knowledge. It's all like you've become almost like a walking meme, but people still take you seriously. And now you've reached a point where you're more than just you. And that's exactly why I believe that format of you driving around in the sports car works so well. Because people are like, who the fuck is this fucking white guy in a sports car privilege rambling about you should have the balls to post on social media and all that jazz. It's like, it works so much better than as if you were like professionally dressed in front of a white wall or anything like that. You know what I'm saying?
You know where the inspiration for that came from was I was kind of like running out of things to talk about. Like I think a lot of creators will kind of get to this point where they'll like they feel. Have you ever had this where you feel like you've said everything?
Yeah.
Like I feel like I got to this point where I felt like I've just given all the advice I have to give. Like I couldn't think of it like. And I know that, like, if you talk to anyone who's like a YouTube consultant or whatever, like, what you should actually do is go through your last 2 years of content, find all the ones that did amazing and just do them again.
Yeah.
You know, I was kind of resisting that for a while. And what I ended up doing was this is the process I have for those, I call them car rants. I literally call them car rants.
That's a good idea, man.
I go through my Twitter account and I find my most viral tweets and then I rant on that topic.
Yeah, sick idea.
Or I actually will go through some of my least best one, my worst performing tweets, and they were the ones that I really thought were making a good point, but people didn't quite get it. Like I didn't phrase it correctly, or it went over people's head, and I'm like, this would actually be better if I ranted about it because it's like 2 sentences, but I can turn that 2 sentences into like a 2-minute rant because I'm so passionate about it. And so basically that's what I did. I have a folder now where I go through all these like really, what I just call banger tweets. So I think they're bangers anyway. And I like driving around in my car. So I get to do, it makes working fun because I get to drive around in my car and I just put the fucking phone there and go through this list of stuff to rant about, and then bang, I have unique content for my Instagram for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
And the other thing that kind of prompted it was that Instagram made that change recently to their algorithm, where they are only rewarding like original content, so they're not rewarding repurposed content, stuff that if it appears anywhere else on their algorithm, they give the views to the original content creator.
No shit. Okay.
That was a very recent update. So that prompted me like, well, okay, I need to make stuff that hasn't been like rehashed from a podcast, for example, because for this one, like I'll share stuff that you post, but if I take the same exact short, from my understanding, you should get the views on your profile, not mine, because it realizes that the content is not original.
Yeah. Well, that's the good thing is like, if you do choose the collaborate function, it's basically one piece of content that gets displayed on both profiles, and then you share the views. But like you said, if you would just download that video and be like, fuck it, I'll repost it like manually, then yeah, that's of course bad. Yeah. And it's cool to hear too that you're basically just bulk creating all your content. Like everybody's like, how do I create a fucking video a day? And I'm like, what? You don't do a video a day. You do 60 videos every 2 months, you know?
Thank goodness someone else said it, because that is the most retarded business strategy I could possibly think of. Like, why would I sit down every day and
hell no, man. Here's what I do. I do it over 2 days. 1 day is my writing day. I sit down, 3 triple shots of espresso, 3 hours blocked on my calendar, and I just write. And funny enough, after the first 5 ideas, they keep getting better and better. Because I'm so into, I'm like, fuck, oh, you know what, I should say that. That's going to be hilarious. And I'm just having such a good fucking time. And then the next day...
You get more.
Like, exactly, you warm up.
Creativity isn't something you could force.
Yeah. Right? It's momentum-based.
So if you say, I'm going to film a video a day, they're going to be shit videos.
Yeah.
And you're not going to speak as well. You're not going to be as emotional, as dramatic, as animated.
Yeah.
But if we have the exact same creative process for this thing. I'll sit down, I'll write out a bunch of video ideas, and I kind of go through bullet points for myself to read from.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
And then there's a day or two of filming all that, and then I've got YouTube content for the next 2-3 months, and I repeat the process again in 2-3 months. I do the exact same thing for my tweets. I do the exact same thing for my car ramps now.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same process. And so, and that gives me runway for 3 months on my social media content, which needs to be cranking out all the time. And in between, I take care of everything else in the business.
It's the best. It's the best shit ever. And if you look closely, you'll even see that on all my reels, I have like the same haircut and the same beard, because it's all shot in one day. All I do, I have like a bunch of t-shirts next to me, and I'm like, shoot one video, change the watch, change the t-shirt, next.
Same exact thing. I just take for that.
It's so funny, like, and you can create so much. Yeah, like you said, like, it's completely momentum based. Now, when you look at your content,
real quickly to add to that point, because I think the reason this is such a good strategy for people to adopt is because the single biggest, like the biggest thing that stops people from having success, I think, on social media platforms, and in particular on YouTube, is consistency. Like, people give up. Like, people will say, "Oh, I'm going to do a video a day," and then they get like a week in, and then there's a massive gap of like 2 months for the different shit. Yeah. Do it again, and they repeat the same process again, and they fuck up again. It's like, you need to be consistent. And it's what's easier, be like, doing a video a day for like 6 months, or doing 6 months worth of videos in a week.
Yeah.
I think the week's way easier, and then you just schedule it, and then the consistency is built into the system already.
Yeah. There's still a factor to be said that you kind of, especially in the beginning, you kind of want to get feedback a little bit before you just create 60 at once. Because like maybe you create 60 that are really shitty. But like over time, like once you and I, we know what works. So once you're at that level, you just fire away and have fun. And that consistency is huge, because also we talked about like, everybody's going to have a podcast. A good friend of mine, he has a podcast academy. He was on this podcast as well, Total G, and he does podcasts professionally. He builds it for people. And he said I think 80% of podcasts only get to the 3rd episode, and then people give up. Of course, because they fucking expect, it's exactly the same with like talking to women. It's like, I talked to 3 women, none of them wanted to give me a number, so it doesn't work. Like, I tried it and it doesn't work. The same with advertising. I tried it and it doesn't work. It's always the same shit. Look, in order to make it work, sometimes you got to eat shit for multiple months. We've just started a new YouTube channel, a new one, just completely from scratch. It has 300 followers. And I don't, I'm like, who gives a shit? I'm not here to get money from it now. I'm here to build a brand off this over the next 12 to 24 months.
Totally. I think YouTube in particular is this really interesting platform. I think personally, YouTube's the hardest platform to grow on.
Yeah.
Because it requires them. I think of all the platforms, YouTube probably requires the most like focus and effort.
Yeah.
And consistency to pull it off. But the added benefit to YouTube is that I look at every YouTube video as like digital real estate because it's search based, right? So if I make a video about how to solve this problem, then anyone who's searching for that, like that video was filmed 3 years ago. For 3 years, anytime someone searches for a solution to that particular problem, I am cashing in rent on that bit of digital real estate. I think that's a clever way to look at YouTube videos. Is look at it like it's okay. People have different types of channels of things, and a lot of people make very topical videos, like responding to current events, and that's fine for that kind of niche. But if you have a niche that is kind of evergreen and will apply for years to come, think of make videos that will provide solutions for years to come, and you'll reap the benefits.
That's great. That's so crazy. There's people that they have entire coaching businesses from a single viral video. Right. It's so crazy. Like, they come to us, they're like, hey, can you help me scale? And we look at their stuff and we're like, okay, where do the clients come from? Oh, they basically all come from this one video. We went viral 2 years ago. We get like 10,000 views per day, whatever, right? It's like, we're still getting views on that, and we still like get like 10 calls per week. And it's so crazy. It's like a single video can change the world. And like you said, it's not always, more often than not, the videos that you really well prepare. A lot of times it's like, fuck, I gotta make a video real quick. Let's just film something real quick. And then all of a sudden it blows up. Like, I remember just the same on my dating account back in the days. I had a video where I was like, I don't know what to shoot, but we kind of have to shoot something. Fuck it. I'll make a video that's like what to do when she says she has a boyfriend. Just randomly knocked it out. Didn't even have 2 cameras, just a single camera, rambled into the camera, and then it went viral. And I'm like, that's the video? Guys, I have insane videos with insane production quality, 4-hour rants, 300 people in the room. Nope. It's the one that I randomly recorded in my basement or wherever I was sitting. So, it's lovely that you say that it's kind of like digital real estate, like you can cash in on that because you're a single video away from a ton of money that you make over years. You're a single DM away from a ton of money. Like, that's the beautiful thing about digital marketing. No matter what your niche is, if you're an affiliate marketer or a coach, consultant, an influencer, like a single DM can change the course of your business. I remember I had a client, I was in a Facebook group once, and in there was a guy that posted about photography coaching for horse photographers. So I read that, I'm like, that's so cool because it's such a good example of like a niche within the niche within the niche. So it's like not just photography, but photography coaching, and not just photography coaching, but photography coaching for horse photographers. So I DM'd this guy, and I'm like, hey, it's so cool that you're so niched out. And he's like, yeah, thanks. Lo and behold, we message back and forth. That guy then becomes my client, buys a program of mine worth $8,000. If I hadn't done this DM, just saying, hey, it's cool that you do horse photography coaching, he would have never become my client. Now, because I found that so cool, I also made an article. That article, it was literally just like 3-minute thoughts on like niches evolving based on the fact that I found someone with a horse photography coaching niche. That article then got me invited on a podcast. On that podcast, someone saw me who then also became my client because they saw me in the podcast. That client then got such amazing results because, like, I don't know, we got them 100K a month or something like that. That client we got them such amazing results that we got referrals and testimonials from them that got us even more money. So it all started with a single fucking DM. And like you said yourself, you went on the Roll of Damascus podcast and then another podcast, and that blew you up right away. Imagine you would have said, you know what? I'm not ready yet to be on the podcast. Or let me wait. Or let me do something else instead. Like, you would have never gotten to the point. You would have never done that one thing that propelled your brand forward.
Absolutely, man. Are you familiar with who Justin Waller is?
The LinkedIn creator?
Yes, he's a big, he runs a construction company, lots of real estate, very good personal friend of mine. He's friends with the Tate brothers as well.
Yeah. I've seen him, yeah.
He's a tall, handsome ginger guy. So we lived together for a couple of years. And when before he got into YouTube and stuff, he would watch me make videos and stuff in our living room. And he'd always wanted to he'd always wanted to transition from having his really successful construction company into teaching people, how to make money and real estate and business principles, because he's very, very good at it. That's what he does now. He teaches all that stuff, and he's doing extremely well with it. But when we first started hanging out, he would tell me that he wanted to do it for years, but he had, I guess, a hesitancy towards it because he felt like he felt a bit of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Which is so ironic because Justin Waller is probably the most successful man I've ever met in all of everything. And he's so intelligent, so articulate, so good at teaching his concepts and ideas in such a novel way. He should have been doing this years ago. But he had that feeling of imposter syndrome, like, oh, what are people going to think of me? I'm not ready. I'm not good. I'm not ready to teach it yet or whatever. And it was just by hanging out with me, and who the fuck am I? I'm nowhere near as successful as he was, right? And then meeting guys like Roland and a few others, and he was like, you know what? If they could do it, I can do it. But I think the lesson in that is if I put now after having that experience with Justin and seeing him, and he's absolutely crushing it, and I love it.
The crazy.
The compass I tell people to look for now is, do you feel imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
Because I think if you do feel imposter syndrome, then you're probably at a point where you should absolutely pursue it. Because I do see on the flip side of that, I see a lot of, I've seen a lot of 18-year-old kids who are like a life coach or like a business mentorship, or I'm like, what the fuck does this prepubescent kid know about anything? Isn't it? So there are people who dive into it without any fucking actual real world experience and they're talking out of their ass the whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
And they never have imposter syndrome, which is so silly. But the guys who are actually successful end up having the imposter syndrome. And I think if you actually have some real world experience and you have imposter syndrome, that should be a compass to tell you to actually pursue it.
That's exactly it. It's like, I mean, like we used to say in the dating advice times, is like use fear, the thing that intimidates you, as a compass of like, that's the direction you got to go to. And it's funny because you said that a lot of smart people, like especially smart people, have that imposter syndrome. Earlier today, I read it on Twitter and I just pulled it up. Dakota Robertson, shout out to him. I've been in touch with him on the DMs a little bit. He posted the following. He said, smart people often end up working for dumber people who had the courage to bet on themselves. And I'm like, it's so fucking true. There's a lot of really smart, intelligent people out there. They're just lacking the naivety almost to fucking say, you know what, I'm going to do it. And a lot of people ask me, like, what did I do back in the days? Because I also started with a dating company. I was like 22, 23. Like, I didn't have a lot of fucking life experience. Funny enough, with the knowledge I have now, I would be probably way more hesitant to start what I did back then. And I was just too naive to know, I was too naive to even think about all the various ways I could fail. And then funny enough, later on, when I transitioned as a dating coach into business consulting, it was 2019, and my back then partner, he was like, dude, you should teach business. And I'm like, business? I don't know anything about fucking business. I'm just this pickup dude, you know? And he's like, dude, you made fucking 3 to 5 million every single year for the last 3 years. You've brought out programs that made you a millionaire in your early 20s. You've built one of the biggest dating companies in the world. You know shit. So I fell into that myself, this imposter syndrome. And it's often that you need a third party, someone else on the outside, like you or like me, who says, you know what? You have something to say. It's worth for you to put yourself out there. It's just that third party voice that you sometimes need that pushes you over the edge so you actually do start taking action.
Totally. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, man.
But I'll add to, like, you know, that kind of like naivety you had as a younger man. The key thing though was that you were actually taking action. Like, so you had the authority to talk about dating and stuff because you were actually out there in the field, like, you know, pointing. You weren't just like a keyboard jockey sitting at home pontificating out of his.
Good point. Now, about that, like, what does your audience look like? What is their I mean, probably mostly male. But what are their ages? What are their kind of like the sticking points? What are their end goals?
Yeah, males mostly to 25 to 35. That's the majority of it. And it kind of splits off into two groups. It splits into like the dude who can't get a girlfriend and has very, very little dating experience, and then the guy who is somewhat older and maybe is married or has a long-term girlfriend or something, and his sort of health might be declining a little bit, or, you know, so he has to kind of like maintain himself enough, and so he's starting to see some of these bedroom, or he's like the sexual spark has kind of died a bit in the marriage or in the relationship, and so he comes to me for like a few more you know, tools to add to his toolkit, shall we say, and that sort of revives and sparks things up again a lot. So the guy who was it's like teaching the old dog new tricks, or it's like training the hobby.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. Yeah. With the guys that come to you that are married in relationships and so forth, do they tell their partner, or do they want to be like, hey, can you teach me in secret so I can blow her mind in bed?
No, they don't really tell. They don't tell their partner, but I get testimonials from these guys all the time, and they'll say things like, my wife said it, where did this come from? Or, I've been wanting you to do this to me for so long, etc. I get that all the time. And I'll also get women reaching out to me saying, I showed this video of yours to my boyfriend. Thank you so much for teaching. I get it from both angles. It's great. I love it. That makes my day seeing messages like that.
That is so cool, man. That is so... I mean, there's probably marriages that you've saved, marriages that you facilitated. I mean, there's probably a bunch of kids roaming around on this earth now because of the stuff that you taught the guy, you know? Like, think about it.
I would like to think so. But I know for a fact I have saved marriages. That is, I've heard that verbatim from the author's mouth.
Yeah. That's, you know what, it's so, I've had a lot of dating coaches, and you're not doing only dating coaching, you're also doing the sex coaching. I've had so many of these fellas on this podcast, and it's so sad for me to see it's such a frowned upon industry. So is the porn industry. That it's such a the dating coach, just sleazy pickup artists. When in reality, I'm like, I'm a product of dating coaches. Everything I do, everything I've achieved in my life, the girlfriend I get to date, the family relationships I have, the businesses I built, the friendships I've crafted and I've kept for so long, that's all because I was a misunderstood, nerdy, shy fucking guy, and some dating coach out there created content that resonated with me, that helped me. And like you said, you've saved so many marriages. There's probably a lot of kids that respect their fathers more. There's a lot of marriages that got facilitated in the first place because of the content you teach. But then on the other hand, people call you a sexist, they call you predatory, you're an asshole, and all that shit. And I'm like, I honestly think that's unfair.
I get called that.
Say it again?
I get called degenerate quite a lot.
Oh, yeah? What the fuck?
I kind of get that. I mean, I like you said a second ago that the porn industry gets a bad rap. I actually think that's a fair bad rap. Totally, as an ex-member of the industry, I totally agree with that. That's fine. I would, if I could snap my fingers and it would be removed from society overnight, I would do that. With the the dating coaching thing, it's you could look at it like it's degenerate, as in you're just teaching dudes to run around and bang a bunch of women. I mean, that is that's a possible end result if that guy chooses that life. What you're actually teaching with dating skills and that is you're teaching social skills. Like you said, you and me have a very similar background, both massive nerds who were shy and didn't know how to talk to people, not just women, but people. And through these kind of teachers and coaches and skills and videos and things, magically now we're charming people. And that's, to me, it's like the idea that you're born charming or you're born an incel is retarded. It's a skill. It's a skill like riding a bicycle. So is sex, by the way. No one is magically born knowing how to sling dick properly. You have to learn it. It's a skill that requires theory and practice. How you get that practice, you could get that practice in a relationship, in a loving marriage with a girlfriend, or some other guys get that practice by sleeping around a bunch. I'm not here to tell people what to do with their life, but this the idea that because I particularly get a lot of flack for some reason from I don't understand the reason, but I get a lot of flack from shall we say Puritan Christian types.
Oh, really?
And my rebuttal is always that you can apply everything I'm teaching in a marriage, right? See, you're married to a woman. You have sex. You can learn how to give her an orgasm. That's totally okay. There's nothing, I don't perceive it as I don't perceive teaching men how to have better sex with their wife as being a degenerate person. A lot of people do, but I don't think it is degenerate.
It's interesting. You say you have Puritan Christians giving you a hard time. I never had any of those in my dating times. It was never the Christians. I don't know. Maybe they just never found our stuff. But that's really interesting. And
the ultimate irony is that I am Christian. So,
but it's so funny because as a guy, you get rewarded. This is the big important nuance here. As a guy, as a man, we get rewarded when we are charismatic, when we do know how to talk to women. But God beware when we try to get there. You know what I mean? We get rewarded when we are there, but we get shamed when we work on it to get there. And that's always it's a certain societal pressure as a guy. I remember back in the days when we did seminars, we talked to 200, 300, 800 people in a room. Some people were like, I cannot be seen if I'm sitting in this room. If people will recognize me from the back of my head, my boss will see it. And they were so paranoid about that. I always tried to encourage them to be honest and be like, yeah, I work with a dating coach. I mean, why not? I work with a fitness coach to get a fucking six pack. I work with a tennis coach to get better tennis. Work with a coach to get better. Like you said, it's all just a skill like anything else. And I'd be super curious to see where the industry goes. This is like manosphere industry, where it will be in the next 10 years, whether it will see some sort of resurgence like it did in the early 2000s, or will it go completely underground like it was before the resurgence? What's your take on it?
I think it's very much shifted to online stuff. I don't know if you might actually know a guy named Michael Sartain.
Yeah, it's a good friend of mine.
Yeah. So I think like what he's teaching is kind of like the next that's the next wave of it all. He's teaching like social media game, shall we say, like Instagram presence game, Instagram branding game, I guess, as come up with social circle and status. Because what we do see, because of things like Instagram and social media, is a massive skewing of dating options towards the 0.1% of men who are very successful, have big social media presences, and prolific. And because like women have access to them, and they have access to all these women now, right? And the average guy doesn't have that level of status and clout.
Yeah.
So kind of getting ignored, and for all practical purposes, invisible on the dating marketplace now. So I think that kind of the direction things are definitely heading. It's guys, you have to compete for the attention of women. That's always been the case for the history of humanity. Like you have to be something for women to be attracted to. You don't just get a wife by default for being a loser. So, but it was definitely, I think, a lot more competitive now than say when we were growing up.
Yeah,
and I'll add to the point you made before, where people don't like seeing guys make the transition. They don't like seeing guys taking the journey, but they like them when they're at the final point.
Yeah.
I think actually kind of stems back to the hero's journey. And if you think about, I like to, I'm a Renaissance man. I like to think about like our past and history of things, right? If you think about like the Roman legionnaire, he would have joined the army as a 16-year-old, and he would have left and gone to the forests of Bavaria and been in pitched battle, and then he came back a man, right? So he went on a hero's journey, and he came back more confident, more competent, and ultimately more attractive to women, right?
Yeah.
They didn't see the journey because it happened somewhere else. It was out the journey, the process of transformation was out of sight of others. But the problem is now people don't go on that hero's journey somewhere else. It's done in their immediate environment. So people aren't used to seeing, like, the reason that transformation is so uncomfortable for people to accept, and the reason that they belittle it so much, is because it conflicts with their worldview of who you currently are. They can't comprehend that, like, if you're changing day by day by day, it's a constant, like, conflict with their worldview. But if you disappear from your hometown, shall we say, for 2 years, and then you come back a successful, changed man, the resistance isn't really there. I've seen that time and time again. Like the comment, like, it's much easier for people to accept when you come back from somewhere else and you're a changed man than them seeing it right in front of their eyes happening on a day-to-day basis.
Whew. Man, that was good last words, I would say. And also something I never thought about, that it's the fact that men used to do it outside of everybody's vision. And it was certainly the case for me. I moved to Vienna, worked on myself, and then I was gone in the States working as an unpaid assistant for Owen for RSD. And then also I came back and everybody was like, oh my God. So it very much is a beautiful journey that you can embark on, even as a man, but also as women. Go out there, slay some fucking dragons in foreign, scary countries, and then come back a better fucking person. And then if you can, help the next person out that is about to embark on that journey. Be kind of like a mentor role. I think anybody can be a mentor. As soon as you're 2 to 3 steps ahead of the average person, you can already help other people out. And I mean, you've taken that idea much, much, much further. You've built a huge fucking brand. And super epic to have you on the podcast. Where can people find you if they want to reach out to you, if they want to check your stuff out?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on, Max. Big fan of your stuff.
Thanks, man.
It was really an honor to sit down and have this chat with you. It was great. People want to find me, On YouTube, you just look for Stirling Cooper. Stirling is spelled Stirling. A lot of people spell it wrong. But still, that's how we spell it in Australia. So Stirling. That's me on YouTube. That's also me on Instagram. I'm just at Stirling Cooper on Instagram. On Twitter, I am at Stirling Wisdom. You can follow me there. So those three platforms are where I'm the most active.
Boom. And hey, let's do the next one in person. Where are you based right now?
Today I'm in Spain. I'm probably here for the next 6 months, I think. Well, I'm actually I'm going to be in America in about a week and a half, bouncing around a few cities there.
Okay.
But we won't be able to, our schedules didn't quite.
That's right. I remember. That's right. Yeah. I mean, dude, Spain is not too far away. I'm in Austria right now.
Oh, I actually was just in. I did a car rally through Austria. I went through Salzburg.
No way, man. That's epic. Yeah, it's great. It's a great country for driving cars, beautiful scenery and all that jazz. But yeah, man, let's stay in touch. I appreciate your time. Really, really awesome. And I appreciate your content. I'm going to watch more of that shit with my girlfriend. I think she'll like it too.
You're welcome.
All right. If you're still listening to this and you get inspired by the idea of having your own business, starting as a coach, consultant, or service provider, or maybe you are already doing this, but content is not blowing up, you're not making as much money as you would like, well, you can definitely profit from our systems. We have helped coaches, consultants, service providers for over 5 years now. We have so many people that we got to their first 10, 20, 30K a month. We've had multiple advanced clients. We've got to over 100,000 all the way up to $500,000 a month with their coaching, consulting, service providing business. If you want our help for free, just kind of look into what we have to offer. Go check out maxtornow.com/call. There you can book a free consultation strategy call with me and my team directly. We'll be sharing with you insights on what you need to do next. If you're currently already working with your own business, we can share insights with you on how to get started. We'll do that entirely for free. We'll set up a plan for you. And then, of course, we can also talk about, if you want our help, how that exactly would that look like. It's over at maxtornow.com/call. Fill out the application, takes you 30 seconds, and then we'll talk to you there. GG.